folks. Welcome to a podcast about Catholic faiths. This is Eric, the ambassador of common sense, and I'm here with...
Dan, your ambassador of nonsense. Welcome, everyone.
Hey, we're right on schedule today. We're never on schedule, but we're on schedule today.
That's right.
We had a subject, but I'm kind of putting that off for a week. We're going to talk a little bit about what the Pope has been doing this past week. I guess this is the first papal visit to Iraq ever?
Apparently. Yeah, I read that in a couple different sources.
Okay, so, and I guess Pope John Paul II wanted to do that and never did. I find it kind of odd because, first, we've got, like, Saddam Hussein. We've got Catholics or Christians living in Iraq, and
right, they're
kind of persecuted a little.
Right, but there's over 1 million of them.
Yeah, they're allowed to exist, and their presence is known publicly. It's not like they have to hide who they are. Mm-hmm. And then the U.S. comes in, and we topple the regime there, Saddam Hussein. And there was a couple times Rush Limbaugh points this out. And I remember during that war, I was for it. You were against it, right, if I remember correctly. And not because of what we're talking about right now, but you were against it.
Right. No, this didn't figure into it. Yeah, we weren't even thinking about these kinds of things then.
But Rush Limbaugh brings up the fact that George W. Bush kept talking about weapons of mass destruction, which didn't materialize. But it's not like he and he alone was doing it. I mean, they made a fool out of him to say, why did he fall for this? But every single other leader in the world was saying the same thing.
Right. It wasn't like that was a, I mean,
you weren't going off half-cocked.
Certainly the United States certainly was kind of in the vanguard, but it's not like there was the United States saying, hey, we've got this intelligence, this is what it says, this is what we're going to find, and everyone else around the world at that time was saying, oh no, your intelligence is wrong, here's what our intelligence shows. It wasn't like that.
His theory was that the intelligence agencies of the top countries were in league, either A, to get rid of Saddam Hussein for some reason or other, or B, to make George W. Bush look like an idiot. He didn't come right out and say this, but that is what happened.
Yeah.
If our intelligence agencies are so smart and so savvy on everything that they could detect, the collusion with Trump and Russia, then why did they all get that wrong? Because Bush didn't base his actions on hearsay. The intelligence agencies all told him that there were weapons of mass destruction. And then we get there and we couldn't find any.
Yeah.
But anyway.
And they had, they had follow-up theories about transporting them into Syria and, stuff like that. But yeah, basically that's how it went. But yeah, the kind of, the fool making that, especially a lot of the news outlets engaged in afterwards wasn't really deserved.
Right. I mean, he did what he was told, the same way some people might give a little bit of latitude to Trump for pushing the country to close down for a couple days. He was told by everybody.
Coronavirus response.
Everyone around him said that everybody was going to die. They had the figures of like 200 million people, and it's like, well, okay, I guess I better shut the country down. So they're... Now that we look back, it was a dumb thing to do. He followed the rules.
He didn't presume to shut the country down. He just urged the governors to do it.
Right. He urged the governors to do it and urged them to open back up again 2 weeks later.
When it was, yeah, exactly.
He said, we got to flatten the curve. That's why we're doing this. Anyway, we keep getting off topic, but the point is that we went in and we took Saddam out, and that left this vacuum that turned into... it ended up turning into a disaster. I mean, we stayed around for a while.
Yeah, but that's a culture that is very autocratic. And the people think that way, and they think in terms of their autocracy as being even though Saddam was more secular, I think, than a lot of the like the Ayatollah of Iran and stuff like that. Nonetheless, they think of that as being something bound up with a divine mandate in terms of the application of law within the country and that kind of stuff. And so, it was kind of Saddam's heavy hand that set the line for persecution.
Right.
And it's like, okay, well, the government's got that handle. The government knows how much to let the Christians do their thing. But as other people had other opinions in Iraq. Well, when he was gone, that became a free-for-all.
Yeah, it was like, look, whether it's a good or a bad government, a government is still a government. And when you've got a giant nation like that, well, it's not giant, but it's a nation. There's a lot of people. And when you got all that area covered with people suddenly who have there was no police, there was nothing all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Or at least there was nothing to control them.
That was the police that were there suddenly became, local, the warlords of a sort.
Right. So it was kind of a free-for-all. Whoever's going to get to the top. And of course, America backed certain people. But I think even there we made some wrong decisions.
How could we possibly hope to make the right decisions? In a situation like that.
It's such a backward place. And so eventually, and then Barack Obama comes in and says, well, we're just pulling our troops out altogether. So even before that transition, the persecution got worse and worse for Catholics, and Christians are fleeing Iraq, and then suddenly America pretty much disappears on Iraqi soil, and it was then it was just a bloodbath. They just killed everyone or banished them. So there's almost zero Christians left in Iraq.
They went into hiding in their within their Christianity. Many of them fled. Yeah, I mean to give some idea, the numbers. I was looking at a graph earlier, and in 2003, there were 1.5 million Christians maybe in Iraq, something like that. Not a huge number. What's the population of Iraq? Something like 40 million people or something. So about 1.5 million Christians. Okay, still a pretty significant minority there. But today there's 300,000.
And
that's like a fifth, 20% of what there was in 2003.
And of course, before then, there were areas that were heavily concentrated with Christians.
Yeah,
and they weren't practicing in secret. They could be open. They could tell people who they were, and they could be a witness to the gospel. But that ended.
Right.
When we pulled
today,
out.
I don't know how they live in Iraq today. I mean, I know they have churches that are in operation and stuff, and maybe it's just that
Well, he went there. He
certain
said
local,
mass.
Maybe certain local governors of Iraq allow the Christians to operate. They and maybe in other areas they don't. I don't know how it works in Iraq, but they continue to be persecuted and, in fact, sometimes killed. And many people are still, who are in Iraq, Christians in Iraq, are still struggling with the question, is it time to just leave and go try to live somewhere else?
Well, the thing is, after Obama created that whole cluster, Trump came in and cleaned it up within a month or two. I mean, he stopped ISIS. Yeah. So I guess there was still some persecution, but ISIS was no longer going through just murdering people.
Yeah.
So, which made the possibility to go back to Iraq, it gave people hope. People who wanted to go back to Iraq, which I don't understand why anyone would want to go there. I'm if you're a Christian, why? I mean,
yeah. Well, that's true. But I mean, if your family's there and you grew up there, and the thing about people in Iraq, and actually in many what we call backward parts of the world, and this is something that is we've kind of fallen into having it backwards here, is that they, irrespective of the religion, the persecutions, and that kind of stuff, just as a people, they inculcate in their children and amongst themselves and just how they live a strong sense of attachment to the history and the people. We don't do that in America, at least anymore. We used to. I think we had some of that, like in the school programs of the 40s and 50s, stuff like that. But we don't do that. In fact, there's, the liberals and the press are like all against that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I could see that would be a reason why somebody would yearn to go back there who had maybe grown up there. Especially
if you are a strong Catholic and your idea is not to hide it, and they take the idea of evangelization serious, and they're there so that they can convert other people to our religion. So they can't do it if they're living in America or anywhere else. They can only do that if they're there in Iraq. They can't convert people in Iraq from somewhere else. They have to be there if they're going to convert people.
To do that, right. So, if they're gonna make their homeland a Christian land, which, many of them certainly are just, living the survival and, eventually God's going to take care of us, and we've got to do it. I got to raise my kids. I've got to train them to be ready to be martyrs and witnesses and so on and so forth. But the thing is, that's why they are witnesses. That's why they are martyrs, because they take witness seriously.
Yeah.
That's why they allow their heads to be chopped off for being Christians.
So Trump cleans this up, makes it possible for them to come back. A couple months after Trump is gone, I don't know if there's evidence yet that we're going to have trouble again, but...
Oh, we will.
I think
the evidence isn't there,
but... It should be obvious.
There's no way that we're not going to see... I think it's going to be specifically a resurgence of ISIL. I'll be interested to see if I'm right about that, but I think ISIL isn't gone. I think it went underground, and it could have been gone, maybe given 4 more years and maybe some changes in the world structure, stuff like that, whatever. But I think we're going to see it come back.
So why didn't he wait until that time when we had beat ISIL, when we had stopped the persecutions, to offer people hope to come back to Iraq? Why now when it's... I think anyone who studies that stuff would think that, the trouble's going to be worse in the next few years. It just seems odd to me. He should have done this 2 years ago if he felt like he had to do it.
Exactly. 2 years ago would have been a great time for him to visit Iraq. But not with this. The theme of his visit is we're all brothers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, he hadn't written that goofy
Abu Dhabi
yet.
Thing. Yeah. That's true. I could see where he feels like he has to do something like that, like this brotherhood among, Abrahamic religions kind of thing, where he thinks he's doing favors for the Christians there. He probably still thinks he did a big favor for the Catholic Church in China.
You think he really thinks that?
I go back and forth. It's like, where do you go? Where does charity lead you in your assessment? I guess on one level we could say, should we even be assessing the Pope's actions? But we can't not. You know what I mean?
Right.
So where does charity lead you in your assessment? Do you think, okay, I'm going to give him the charity of goodwill and believe that he's really that foolish and ignorant, or I'm going to give him the charity of intelligence and think, well, therefore he must be somehow just completely irresponsible, and indifferent to the plight of real Catholics in China.
Yeah.
So I don't know which way do you go with when you try to assess these things in a spirit of charity towards the Pope right now. I don't know the answer to that. But in terms of Iraq, it's a little bit different, but I don't think he's doing them any favors. I think we're going to see a persecution. I think the we're all brothers is going to, if you're Muslim, and especially if you're militant Muslim, we're all brothers. Your Pope said we're all brothers, so in this land, you need to join us. Become Muslim, because, exactly, that's what it's going to be.
Well, so So what did happen? He goes over there, and I guess he visits the area where the Chaldeans are and where they had fled. What church was that? Hold on, let me see here.
Oh, that church that had been destroyed.
Yeah, at Baghdad's Chaldean Cathedral. So
okay, right.
He went there and he said mass. And I don't know. We'll get to what he said while he was there in a minute.
Yeah, the town of Karakosh, I think is how you might pronounce that.
But this is where lots of people... I think ISIS stormed the church in the middle of a mass and killed almost 50 people, including 2 priests.
Yeah.
And they are rebuilding the church now. He goes there to say mass, which I guess...
They've still got like mannequin... Because when ISIL invaded them and you know, they kind of like set up the church courtyard as a target practice range with mannequins and stuff. And I mean, it was just so, the destruction was so devastating. They haven't even cleaned that up yet, from what I understand.
Know that. Wow. Well, he goes there and he says mass, but he also goes to this the birthplace of Abraham. Is that where the Tower of Babel was?
No. I think that was somewhere else. The city of Ur is the birthplace of Abraham.
Okay. But they were built... Abraham was one of the ones who said, I'm not going to be a part of building this tower, wasn't he?
No. I don't think there was anyone like that. Because the Tower of Babel was way before Abraham.
I hear other people saying other things. Either way, he goes to Ur, and... I mean, he built this thing up like it was going to be a great big hug fest between... Yeah. All the between Jews and Muslims and Christians, and
it's not going to work that way.
Guess
I don't know.
What? There's no Jews
that's
there.
That's what makes me think that. I know there's like 10, not like maybe 1,000 or a few thousand. There's like maybe 10 Jews left in all of Iraq now.
Yeah, but there's none at Ur.
Oh, at this particular place. Yeah.
This was supposed to be the
birthplace of Abraham.
This big ecumenism thing, and all that was there were other Muslims and Christians, and he's there, and he doesn't once mention Jesus Christ. I don't know what he's there for. He talks about brotherhood, but we're only brothers through Jesus Christ. I guess you could say we're all human beings, but
yeah, we're brothers in Adam or something like that, sort of, kind of, but yeah, I mean, we're called to be brothers in Jesus Christ.
Yeah, because later he talks about Matthew 23:8, where it says you are all brothers. But that's not what Matthew 28 is about. They're saying we're all brothers in Christ. I mean, they're talking specifically to Christians there. That's the passage where he says, don't call someone rabbi or don't call someone teacher, but you're all brothers. You're talking to Christians. We wouldn't call Muslims our brothers.
Yeah, no.
This whole brotherhood thing it's hard to even talk about it because when you point to specific things that he says about the brotherhood of men, it's hard to refute that specifically taken by itself. But the fact that you talk about that more than Jesus Christ shows that there's something wrong here. That you're focusing on the wrong things.
Yeah, I'm looking up the verse right while you're you're talking there, and yeah, I mean he's talking specifically to his followers.
Yeah,
and how they're to regard each other.
The hope of being open to a horizon of peace and fraternity, which were summed up in Jesus' words, expressed in the motto of his apostolic visit to Iraq. You are all brothers. We are not brothers with Muslims. We just aren't.
No, not in that sense that Jesus meant. So I guess his apostolic visit, he's making an apostolic visit to non-Christians.
Okay,
I suppose.
But he didn't say anything about Jesus Christ.
But not calling them to Christ. I mean, would any apostle visit anywhere
apostolic.
without talking about Jesus?
You know, and he's being compared to St. Francis of Assisi, who
he was a fierce preacher.
Went to these eastern lands. I don't know if he went to Iraq, but he went to the eastern lands, and he preached to them.
There was that Arabian Sultan or something that he went to.
Yeah, he told him about Jesus Christ.
Yeah, he went to try to convert him.
He didn't go there and just say we're both brothers.
Hey, let's be brothers.
He may have said that, but he also talked about Jesus Christ and saving mankind and dying for mankind, and about the Trinity, which the Muslims don't believe in. He preached the Trinity and the gospel to them. So this isn't you can't. I'm sorry, you can't make that comparison.
This doesn't even. Yeah.
This is not Francis of Assisi. This is Pope Francis. So after the visit, we're not seeing. I mean, there's not a whole lot of news about what's going on and what people's reaction. But
because he left Monday, you'd think. I mean, this is 2 days later after he left. You'd think there'd be a few commentaries on it,
right?
Other than the standard news. Hey, the Pope visited Iraq. He said this. That. I mean, commentaries among the more conservative, traditional bent of Catholics.
So we've got, like the church militant saying that, reporting that a lot of the, social media, more or less making fun of the Pope because I guess he bent to the Muslims. The Muslims there are taking credit for taming the Pope, more or less.
Oh, is that how it's playing out among the Muslim world?
That's...
it doesn't surprise me. I said that something like that at the beginning of this podcast, didn't I?
Yeah, it was... That's how they see it. Well, we
got our Pope over here, got him to agree that
even
we're all
your Pope is coming to us and kissing our rings, and I don't know if he kissed anyone's rings, but your Pope is coming over here to us. So you Christians, even your leader is bowing to us. So that's how it is. That's how they think of it. I can't see why he would think they would think of it any other way. It's, I think, dangerous. I think what he did was dangerous.
Mm-hmm. It's going to lead to more persecution, and I know that a lot of people who don't see those links, who don't realize how deviously the devil works in the world, think we're just stupid for saying that.
Yeah.
It was dangerous for him to make this visit in the way that he did.
I guess we'll have to wait and see how this plays out. But that's how they're taking it. It's the experts are saying this is going to cause more hostility, and also there's this growing tension between the Muslims and the Jews. I say growing as if it's just popped up out of nowhere, but now that Trump has left office, Israel doesn't have as many friends, and the Jews in that area don't have as many friends, and I'm sure a lot of them are pretty scared as it is. And the fact that Pope Francis goes over there and says, oh, we're going to have this big meeting between the Muslims, the Jews, and the Catholics, and there's no Jews
don't
there.
Get to attend. That's got to have some of Israel's people. The Israeli government certainly worried a little bit.
So he goes to this mass, and his some of the things he said. I've got a few quotes here.
Okay.
This is his sermon at the mass in Baghdad.
Okay.
Love is our strength, the source of strength for those of our brothers and sisters who here too have suffered prejudice and indignities, mistreatment and persecutions for the name of Jesus. Okay, this is correct.
Okay, so he's talking about Christians there in the name of Jesus.
Christians who were, I think he's talking about the past 10 years.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. Right.
Hold on. Banjo! Yet while the power, the glory and the vanity of the world pass away, love remains, he said. So he's talking about brotherhood and love here, but he kind of fails to see the fact that the reason they're allowed back is because of military strength.
Oh, right.
From Trump.
Yeah, he's talking about. Yeah,
it's not like
the
people who persecuted the Catholics there didn't suddenly decide, hey,
oh my God,
we shouldn't do this. We're doing the wrong thing.
We need to be
That's
brothers.
not what happened.
We're brothers. We need to live in love.
We beat them.
That's not what's going on.
Yeah, that kind of irritates me because he does the same thing when he talks about things like World War II, and it's like, are you forgetting that these people had to fight in order to save these other people?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Unless, if you want to call love, love and brotherhood is picking up a gun and being willing to shoot and risk being shot. Okay. But somehow that never conveys in what he's saying.
Yeah. Here's another one. We can ask ourselves, how do we react to situations that are not right? In the face of adversity, there are always two temptations, flight or anger. But these two approaches never fixed anything, he said. Jesus, on the other hand, changed history. How? With the humble power of love, with his patient witness. This is what we are called to do. There's nothing wrong with what he says, but are you saying we don't fight evil?
Yeah,
are you saying we don't stand up for the oppressed? Is that what you're trying to say? I'm sorry, that's wrong. And flight or anger, there's nothing wrong with anger. There's nothing wrong with flight.
That's yeah. I mean, sometimes you need to flee, and if we use anger to mean the kind of righteous indignation that demands justice in the face of wrong, then yeah, we're supposed to have that, and we're supposed to act on it. It's supposed to be one of those aids that helps impel us to act when we need to act.
When you have strength, and whether we're talking about personally as in human strength or nationally as in military strength, when you have strength, you do have a duty to use it for justice, to help the people who are downtrodden. I mean, I guess there's certain ways. It's like you can't just go in and be the policeman of the world. But,
right.
When there's a group of people who are being slaughtered, you kind of have a duty to do something. I don't know whether it's just to support the military that's fighting it, or to which means making guns and weapons and giving them to them,
possibly
or
shipping them to them. Yeah,
which will come up in a minute again. But or actually going in with boots on the ground and saying, "Hey, stop this." So
it's interesting that was kind of Reagan's preferred way of dealing was to help those who are fighting for their own freedoms. Help those downtrodden who are fighting for themselves. Don't go fight their battles for them. We've got our own battles here at home.
Yeah.
But help those who are, But I kind of think that was Trump's preferred way too. He didn't engage in any wartime activities during his presidency.
More wars ended under his reign than started versus Obama, which is the opposite.
Which, of course, I'm sure that didn't make certain people very happy because when you end wars, that also means you sell fewer weapons and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's not just the weapons. There's contract work that can be done afterwards, and there's just tons of money that goes into war, and a lot of people get very rich off of war, and Trump just stopped it. He said, "We don't need this war. Let's do it this way. Sanctions, sanctions. He sanctioned everyone, and it kept
turned
working.
Out to be effective.
Yeah, it's like I'm going to make you suffer financially if you don't straighten out, and lo and behold, people started to straighten out, and he's getting all these deals between Israel and everyone else, and everything was looking up. I don't know, but Pope kind of more or less backed Biden. And here we got even Benedict talking about Biden as if he's
a authentically Catholic president now. Yeah, that's
and then he says things like Biden, who is personally against abortion. I don't even understand what that means.
Why would you even believe that? What about his actions, his public actions, would ever lead you to believe that that's a true statement?
Right. I mean,
nothing.
Because he said it?
I can't judge a man's heart. I've got to judge according to his actions. And his actions, no, he's not against it, personally or otherwise.
One of the dumbest things to do is to judge any man by just the words he uses. I mean, everyone knows that. Actions speak louder than words, and he's very clearly all for abortion. There's no mistaking that.
You have no qualms about it at all.
It could be that Pope Benedict doesn't ever see the news or anything. I mean, he might. Oh yeah, who knows where he gets his information?
Allow that Pope Benedict may. Yeah, that's. But it sure doesn't.
American
help.
Politics aren't really on the tip of his tongue or on the tip of his mind, but whatever. So Pope Francis comes back and he's talking about his. I tell you what, he's like I don't even know how to explain it. He's like,
so this is like
he thinks he started this new age of peace.
Oh, like he thinks he started something? Like he initiated something?
His I don't know. He has some kind of weekly talks, the catechism something or other, and he's reflecting on his trip, and he's talking about the joy of welcoming Christ's message and the hope of being open to a new horizon of peace and fraternity.
Oh my gosh.
Come on. You sound so stupid. What?
Yeah.
Does he really think this? I mean...
Or does he have writers that come up with this stuff?
Well, that could be. But still, I guess he went over there for a reason. He must think that somehow he's going to convince Muslims not to kill Christians, as if Muslims who are killing Christians. See, that's another one of the little quotes that he's got. Hold on, let me find this again.
If we had time to...
Here we go. We believers cannot be silent when terrorism abuses religion. Indeed, we are called unambiguously to dispel all misunderstandings. As if terrorism is born out of misunderstanding.
We cannot stand by silently. We're called to dispel misunderstanding? How about we're called to stop the terrorism?
Right. Terrorism abuses religion. I don't know. Terrorism is a part of their religion.
Yeah, that is their religion.
And it's not like it would take a scholar to dig deep into some kind of conspiracy realm in order to find this out.
Mm-hmm.
It's there all through their writings. That's what they believe. They're supposed to kill us, and they're supposed to terrorize us. That's their religion. So what misunderstanding? The only misunderstanding is idiotic Catholics who go up there and kiss them and say, hey, let's be brothers. That's misunderstanding.
That's the misunderstanding.
That's just stupid.
Yeah, that's deepening the misunderstanding.
There's some kind of animal outside making.
Is that what's making your dog crazy?
Yeah. So Vicky's outside cleaning the car. Last night, the kids were all outside. Yeah.
At 10 at night?
Yeah. Well.
All right. Whatever.
That's her thing. But the thing is, last night I get up. It's like 1 a.m, and Vicky and 2 of the kids are outside, looking towards the back into the wood area, and it's outside of our yard that they're looking at. And they're like, "There's a sound," and it's hard to make the sound, but it was a click and then a whoop, 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 something like that. It was weird. Really weird. It's maybe some kind of strange, maybe an owl.
I was going to say, I can't imagine that anything but a bird would make that kind of sound.
Or an animal that was being eaten you know what I
Oh,
mean?
like a wounded animal, like
a rabbit
a frog or something.
I don't know what kind of sound possums make, but something like that. I don't know. Anyway, she went out there tonight to clean the car, and she said it's back and making even more noise now. So she had to bring the dog in, even though she knew I was recording.
Not something being eaten then.
So, yeah.
No, it's okay. It's not that loud.
Okay, so let's see. I guess I don't have a whole lot more to say about this. It's just kind of more the same. Oh, another thing. So Pope Francis gets back, and he's talking about it, and he's talking about the terrorists who he went and hugged, and then he says, see a couple little things here. First of all, he says he's asking who is selling weapons to the terrorists. And he never answers this question, but he poses this question as if it's as if he's pointing out some important part of this big problem.
Huh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's weird.
I wonder if terrorists only had rocks to crush Christian heads, would he be asking who's selling these rocks to the terrorists?
Yeah.
You know,
right. How are they getting these rocks? You know. Yeah,
do you know how it's not hard to
there's
make a bomb?
There's always going to be people willing to sell guns to terrorists, or swords, or rocks, or bombs, or whatever, or the materials to make bombs.
When they don't have guns, they use knives, or they drive through crowds, or most of the time they use bombs. Most of the destruction is caused by bombs, which are not hard to make, and it's impossible to try to really... There's nothing they could do to keep it from happening other than find the terrorists and deal with them.
Yeah, find the terrorists and stop the terrorism.
It's just a dumb thing to ask this question. And you know what this is. This is another shot at capitalism. And it's ignorant.
Okay. Yeah, who's selling these guns to terrorists? The only reason terrorists are able to wreak their terrorism is because some people in the world are allowed to operate on a profit motive.
Yeah. It's just more of his,
I see where that is. Yeah.
You know, we're called to unambiguously dispel all misunderstandings. How about studying a little bit more about economies and history, how they work and what we've done for the world compared to every other nation that has ever existed? And then, last but not least, the response to war is not another war. The response to weapons is not other weapons. The response is fraternity. I don't know what he means by another war. Like if World War II, we fought in World War II, we didn't fight another war in response to World War II. We just fought World War II.
Yeah, well, the war was brought to us and we fought it.
There's an aggressor and we have to do something about that. We got to stop him. You know,
when a bully comes up and punches your brother in the face, the response is to make sure that he never does that again. And you don't do that through brotherhood.
Right. You fight it, you stop it, and then guess what? There's peace.
Yeah. More peace comes from properly engaging in some kind of fighting action than from trying to hide from it and cower from it in the name of some brotherhood.
And as far as weapons, I don't know. Reagan pretty much ended the Cold War, and he largely did it with weapons.
Yep.
I mean, we don't know how things would have gone if Reagan hadn't built up the military, but I don't think it would have ended the way it did. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean,
not only the military. There were a lot of cultural things going on in the world, but not only the military, but also, remember, I mean, it was derisively called Star Wars, but Strategic Defense Initiative. I mean, and that was the big poker play by Reagan. It's like, hey, we're going to do this, and you're going to be left out in the cold, or you could join us, and our nukes could become a non-concern. Mm-hmm. Now, it never quite fully materialized, but it got things rolling and thinking.
It was my understanding that Reagan calls out about Star Wars and basically tells them we've kind of almost already have it.
Yeah.
And that sent Russia into this mad spending spree.
Which kind of collapsed the economy. Well, yeah, a little bit of a exaggeration.
They had to figure out how to do this, and they started spending all this money, and they collapsed because their economy collapsed. They just didn't have the money we had because they didn't have capitalism.
The poker game. Yeah, exactly. That they didn't have the basic engine to sustain the kind of spending that they needed.
Well, that's about all I got on this Pope visit. That I think to me it's a bit the whole thing is a non-issue, but I'd like to see over the next couple weeks.
I hope
the
there's going to be some more
come up
analysis
with
on
some
it.
things that are going to come out, and they're going to say the Pope did this while he was in the Abraham spot, and
they'll probably come up with some things that are truly non-issues, just to be able to come up stuff with against the Pope or whatever. But but I would like to see some others weigh in on was this worthwhile? Was it completely benign and ineffectual? Was it just stupid? Was it really dangerous the way we think it is?
Yeah.
I'd like to see some others kind of weigh in
especially
on that.
People who could get all of the text of what happened there and the recordings and go through it, because a lot of it. I only speak English,
I'm not going to read his Italian comments or his Portuguese comments or whatever language he might speak.
Yeah. I'm seeing a whole bunch of things. Where are we on this vaccine? I'm seeing a lot of people speak out against the vaccine. But
personally, I'm against trying to force people to get the vaccine. I don't intend to get it, but if I'm required to for some, specific thing that I want to do, I might do it. I'll make a stink about its association with aborted, baby cell lines and stuff like that. But I've been seeing some kind of weird, claims about it recently. There's one guy I saw that was claiming that it. He was actually making a claim that the coronavirus doesn't actually cause the COVID disease and stuff like that. I'm trying to find. There was a particular link that I had. Here we go. So here's one headline. This is Technocracy News. Moderna's top scientist. We are actually hacking the software of life. In a way, that's
I don't know. I mean,
it's a little bit true. Okay, if the software of life is basically the coding of DNA, and from the DNA you get sequences of amino acids that result in that specifies a protein. Okay. Yeah. All right. That's in that sense, sure.
But then we were doing the same thing with other vaccines as well. We just changed the way we do it.
Kind of. Maybe it would be worthwhile to explain that difference real quick to our listeners.
Yeah.
So the way a normal virus works is that it goes into your cells. And the virus itself is two things. It's some kind of protein structure that gives it its shape and its ability to attach to and then invade your cell. And then a bunch of either DNA or RNA. Usually I think for a vaccine it's RNA. But basically the sequence of nucleotides, it injects it into your cell and takes over your cell's protein-making mechanism to make more of itself. So it's got the protein, and then it's got the RNA that encodes its protein and injects that into your cells, and your cell then starts replicating the proteins and the RNA and creates more versions of the virus, which then eventually the cell explodes because it's got so many of the virus copies, and then all of those viruses go out and attach to other cells and do the same thing.
So a virus is like it's a hacker of your programming.
It's already a hacker. Yeah, it's exactly what a virus is.
I mean, that's what it is.
It's a hacker. It's like in fact, that's why some of these when we think of computer virus. That's why that's an apt term for it, because that's kind of exactly how a real biological virus works.
Okay.
So then your body has an immune response, which it's like constantly producing. I think it's like just randomized strings of these sequences of amino acids that may or may not happen to attach to an invading or to a part of an invading virus. And when it does so attach, it makes that virus impotent. It can no longer invade cells. Well, when it happens to, when something happens to attach to the part of the virus, and I'm way simplifying things here, that fact triggers the body that makes those things to say, oh, you found something. I need to make a whole lot more of you so that we can keep this particular virus or this particular, whatever invader at bay. And so then your body learns to generate those, and that becomes an immunity.
But it
and it remembers
it does that by so a virus comes in, and this sequence suddenly sees it, attaches it, makes it no longer able to do what it was going to do.
Right.
And at the same time, it sends another piece of information. Right?
Right.
The mRNA?
Well, we'll get into what the mRNA is.
Okay.
But basically, the fact that it was able to attach triggers a mechanism that generates a whole lot more of these things.
Okay.
So that they can attach to any virus that shows up anywhere in the body, and then you become immune to that virus. Now, there's some viruses that resist that effect, and there's some viruses that your body can forget the immunity within a short time. And then there's some viruses that there's so many different strands of the same virus, and the particular thing that your immune that your immune sequence is attached to, it's like, okay, it attached to that one, but the 3,700 other variants of that virus aren't affected by that one thing that made you immune from that one variant. So there are some, it's not a perfect, like, all-encompassing system, but generally that's how these immunities work. So here's what they did with COVID. Well, okay, so that's how viruses work. That's how immunity works. So what they figured out was, well, wait a minute. What if we could take a virus and somehow render it basically dead so that it didn't have the ability to invade a cell and take over the protein-making factory within the cell?
Yeah.
But it still had those same proteins. Well, then that virus would be floating around in your blood harmless, and your immune system would find it, attach to it, and trigger you to make a whole lot more of those particular sequences of amino acids, and then you would be immune to that virus without the danger of that virus actually taking over your body like it wants to do. So that's what, and sometimes it's a dead virus, sometimes it's just a weakened virus.
Okay.
It's still live, it's still going to, you might have some effects, but we've weakened it to the point where your body's going to respond before it has a chance to harm you in any way. So that's what a typical vaccine is. Now, here's what these guys did with and I think all of the variants of the COVID vaccine work this way. And in some ways, it's kind of ingenious. They said, what if we could take the particular protein that needs to be seen as an invader, okay? So like on a coronavirus, take one of the spikes. The coronavirus is called that because it looks kind of like a crown because it has all these spikes coming out of it. So let's take one of the spikes, and the protein that defines that spike, let's take that protein and reverse engineer it into the sequence of amino acids that make up that protein, and then reverse engineer that into the sequence of RNA nucleotides that represent those amino acids that make the proteins. So that's the messenger RNA. So what we'll do, we're going to take a delivery mechanism that has just that mRNA in it, this messenger RNA, and we're going to put it in your body, and that delivery mechanism is going to have the opportunity, the ability to invade some of your cells and cause them to start manufacturing this one specific protein from the virus, the spike of the virus. But your cell will make a bunch of those, but here's the thing. It will not make a bunch of things that can then go out and infect other cells. So it's extremely limited in its ability to infect your overall body, and yet it's going to produce this one protein that's going to trigger your immune response and ultimately make you immune to the coronavirus generally. Not all versions of the coronavirus, but this coronavirus. Right. So basically, we're tricking your body by letting certain cells get invaded by this mRNA, but the result of that is going to be this one single protein that in turn is not going to be able to invade other cells. To me, I think it's a really clever and really neat way of doing a vaccine. Now, the only thing that I have about this is this. If your body learns this one particular protein, does that protein then persist in your body so that your body stays reminded of it? Or do you eventually need to, maybe people who have gotten vaccinated should be followed up with an injection of the actual coronavirus so that their body remembers that immunity long term. That's the thing I don't know. That, to me, that's my concern.
You don't know if they do that, or you don't know if
I don't know if they need to do that. I know that they don't do that. That's not part of the treatment.
Okay. And we don't know what kind of long-term... Yeah, okay. I think it's ingenious, and I don't think it's in any way against nature, unless you're using the body parts of murdered people.
For example, yeah, that would be against nature.
If you're doing that, that's against nature. But doing it this way is just... It's just we found out more about how this works, and we found new ways to make it work. I don't see the problem with this.
I don't see why existing vaccines, like maybe chickenpox and measles and stuff like that, couldn't be re-engineered into this kind of a thing.
Right. Or even things like HIV.
I don't know if HIV can. Yeah, if they could find a way to trigger a body's... part of the thing about HIV is that it creates an inability to respond with an the natural immunity response. But yeah, if there's a way to use this kind of concept to create a body's initial response to an HIV type of protein without actually introducing a volatile HIV virus or a fecund HIV virus, whatever... maybe you could have a vaccine against AIDS.
Do you know much about the history of this? How long have they been trying to figure this out, and what is it that suddenly allowed them to do it?
I don't know how long they've been trying to figure out. I don't know if mRNA vaccines have been something that were in the works for years, and this became an opportunity to say, hey, wait a minute, we know how to make message. That's the thing. We have a pretty good ways to make manufactured sequences of RNA and DNA. That laboratories can do. So for example, when you're doing genetic sequencing, you want to find certain you want to attach to and find certain specific areas of a person's chromosome or something like that, and those areas are often delimited on each end by a certain sequence of nucleotides that kind of don't show up in that particular sequence anywhere else within the whole set of chromosomes. And so what you say is, well, okay, I need some what are called primers for this sequencing to sort of attach to the parts of the DNA that match it, and then create lots and lots and lots of more of just that part of the DNA. Well, so what you do is you call out to a laboratory and say, hey, I need a primer, and I need it to be, and you just send them, I need, this specific sequence of DNA. I need to, the A, T, C, G, 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 A, T, T, C, C, G, A, you give them the sequence, and they can manufacture that in a lab. So we've had that for a little while now. And so it could be that this has all kind of been in the theoretical works, and this became an opportunity to say, wait a minute, this is probably the fastest way to get a probably safe vaccine versus all of the extended testing we would have to do if we were doing this by using a live, weakened, or even a dead virus.
Yeah.
And so you asked the question. I don't absolutely know the answer. I should look up the answer because that is kind of interesting. But
yeah, I guess, there's so much, I don't know. It's like fear mongering, and I think the idea for a vaccine for COVID-19, I think the whole thing is silly. I think it's something we should just weather through and go ahead and get it and let everybody get it and take care of the people who are hit hardest by it, or protect that group of people from getting it, and then develop herd immunity, and then go on with our lives. I think it should be that simple.
I think that's just the way to do it with this particular virus.
But since the Democrats have made this their... they've turned this political. So now it's become a political thing.
They turned a medical thing political.
Now, obviously, I'm on the side of the right of any political discussion on this. The problem is that now they've turned this idea of doing this, of vaccinating people in this way, into a kind of a conspiracy discussion. And the far right is really against it, but kind of for the wrong reasons, I think.
Yeah, that's the problem. I'm against requiring the vaccine too, but you've got to have the right information, and when you are talking about that and going down these paths of it's gonna rewrite your DNA or something like that, like it's gonna alter the genetics within your body or whatever.
We're all going to become different people, or
I don't
pigmen
know,
or something. And it's like, when you say these things, it kind of makes your argument weak. There's nothing wrong with just sticking with the liberty argument, or there's nothing wrong with saying, I want to make this decision for myself, and I don't need the government to make it for me. And
you don't have
the
to
government
invent boogeymen.
Yeah, it's okay to make a argument on moral grounds. There's nothing wrong with that. Let's just stick with that, because that's the one that wins. That's the one that's right anyway. Yeah, we don't need more than that. Okay, I wanted to talk a little bit about that, but I think the main segment is done now. Unless you have something else to add.
No, let's talk current events if you've got some.
So we'll get some news here. California is opening stadiums and Disneyland and other theme parks with limited capacity. To me, that's stupid. It's like they forgot why those theme parks are there and the stadiums. I mean, they're not there to entertain people. That's not their function. They make money.
Yeah. It's kind of pointless to open with limited capacity on some of these things.
Yeah, it's like, okay, you're only allowed to break even on this. And any rich guys can be like, why the hell do I want this? The only reason anyone would have these things is to maybe in the hopes that they'll one day be allowed to operate at full capacity again. But the way these things are being rolled out, it's kind of like, I can't imagine owning one of these things at this point. I mean, I'd be devastated, because it's like, well, the government just came and took my whole business, took my whole livelihood, and the millions of people I employ.
Mm-hmm. If you're one of those big operations, that's a you know that they're not paying these, tens of thousands of workers to continue working when they're not even operating.
Right. There's different kinds of costs with a business like that. Some of it is like if you're opening, if you're going to have, first of all, there's the cost of owning it, and that takes a certain amount of money. But if you're going to open to, say, one person or 50,000 people, some of those costs are the same. They don't grow with the number of people. And so if he's going to open, you have to open and you have to pay this, whether you have just one customer or 50,000 customers.
Capacity doesn't matter there.
Now, other ones, it goes up with the number of sales you make and stuff like that. But I can't imagine them really making much money at any of these theme parks or stadiums with the limited capacity that they're talking about. The 6 foot distance rule. You can't fit very many people in that way. And it's stupid on top of all that.
Besides that.
Whatever. California, I don't know. It's just... And they're doing the same thing here in Ohio. Kings Island was pretty much closed this year. I think you could call and you had to wear a mask the whole day. You had to make a reservation. I don't know if all the rides were going or not. I guarantee it wasn't as fun. It was...
Yeah.
I didn't bother
going. To do that?
It's dumb. So there was the $15 minimum wage introduced by Bernie Sanders, and that was rejected.
Good.
In the Senate.
Right.
58-42, which means some Democrats held up. There are Democrats out there who do understand how bad this would be. I'm kind of surprised to see it rejected. I really am.
Yeah. But, I think there's some Democrats who at least have some modicum of understanding of the economics. I mean, Bernie Sanders' his grasp on economics is leaves a lot to be desired. And there's got to be at least a few Democrats who understand that. Yeah.
Now, they did pass the $1.9 trillion relief package. And
they did.
I guess it did give some money to citizens. I don't know if it does. Well, we'll see. Let's see if the checks come. But on top of that, it just funneled tons and tons of money into all these little pet projects that they had. And I think a lot of it isn't even here in America. So, I mean, it's just...
Oh, my.
I don't know. It's like they're trying to create an economic... I don't even know what you would call it. It wouldn't even be a depression. It would be a destruction.
Collapse?
I mean...
Collapse? Well, I think part of it, I think there is a certain contingent of Democrats who actually intend, and their actual goal here is to create a economic situation of dependency on the government.
Yeah.
I think that's what, where once they're dependent on us, then they'll vote for us because they'll know that we're the ones who are going to, sustain their checks coming or whatever. I think there's a contingent that really is operating on that premise.
And I know that's hard for a lot of people to swallow. I mean, I was driving around today thinking about the fact that this podcast itself, we're not like insider Catholics, who have degrees in theology and political degrees. We're guys who go to work in a normal world and happen to be Catholic and know a fair amount about the religion and about American politics, and we talk about it. But for someone like us, the idea of these guys conspiring to bring down the American economy seems kind of far-fetched, but it's a $1.9 trillion relief package. It's hard to draw any other conclusion when you see what they're doing.
Yeah, it's kind of the same quandary I had about the Pope. What if you want to say, okay, what's the most charitable view of what's going on here? where do you put that? Do you say, okay, I think they're just really, really terribly stupid? Or do you say, okay, they intend what is going to happen here?
Yeah. And I mean, we know what happens because we have history. All you got to do is look at history. We know what happens when you do these stupid things.
Yeah, we've got the Soviet Union. We've got Venezuela.
And now we're going to have America.
Yeah.
So, well, we should keep fighting it at every opportunity. I guess right now the real question is, how do we fight it? And is something like voting, does that actually fight it anymore? I don't know. Let's wait and see if there are any ways to fight the voter fraud and to get a control again of our government. I just don't think we know right now. More governors are deciding to take things into their own hands. I think South Carolina is the next one that is saying no more restrictions for restaurants. Yeah.
And in spite of restaurants even aren't I think restaurants aren't even going to be required to require people to wear masks, stuff like that. And each new state that
are governors doing this, or are
governors,
the legislators?
Well, the governors or the legislatures, whatever. Because I think a lot lot of these things were brought down initially as governor executive orders, and then they're removing them. So,
well, yeah.
But what the bottom? But the thing is, it's each new state that does this throws Biden into a tizzy.
Yeah,
because he wants to have everything locked down.
Yeah. He wants everybody to wear a mask. Speaking of masks, so Swiss voters approved a ban on full facial coverings in public.
Good.
And I think
I hate walking around not seeing people's faces.
Right. Well, this is not... I don't think this is about the COVID masks. This is about...
It's about Muslims?
The Muslims, yeah.
Yeah. Which, okay.
So it's being called a burqa ban. And it's a good thing because I don't know. It doesn't seem like a healthy society where people walk around covering their faces. And I know that there's the computer software out there right now doing facial recognition, and it's given the government more control because they see everyone and they can track everyone. But I even if you're going to fight that, I don't think it's healthy to walk around with a mask on. It's just unhealthy. It's not good for society.
Yeah. Now, in the for the Muslim, it's only the women that have to do that, right?
Right.
For Muslims. So,
but but any man.
The thing is, any man with even slightly effeminate eyes could put on a burqa, pass for a woman, carry a bomb into a crowded area, whatever.
So Biden grants temporary protected status to Venezuelans who are living here. It's going to last for 18 months. So we can't deport any Venezuelans.
Okay. Well, that's...
we knew that was happening.
I guess if there's a country that needs some, whose citizens need a little bit of automatic asylum, Venezuela is one. Cuba's probably another.
Yeah.
But,
But what is happening in Venezuela? I mean, there was this the coup down there, and then
they had Hugo Chavez, and then the coup, and then it collapsed, and I don't even know what the current situation in Venezuela is.
See, to me, at this point, we should be saying, no, you guys stay there and fight this out. You guys,
that's a good point.
Don't come here. Don't bring your crap here. Keep it down there. Straighten it out. Then you can come up here. Oh well.
Yeah.
See, that's what I think should happen in Puerto Rico. I don't think we should accept them as a state. I think we should make them straighten themselves out and get rid of the corruption and clean themselves up.
Yeah. If there's some contingent down there that is not a socialist and not fighting to be a dictator of some kind, we could help them. A la Reagan. He got in trouble for that, didn't he? The Contras against the Sandinistas.
I don't know. I was pretty young back then.
Oh.
Not old enough to really... I mean, I heard Oliver North. That was my introduction into politics, and even then I didn't understand that. So,
okay.
I mean, I do a little bit more now, but back then I was just, okay, Ollie North. Everybody likes Ollie North, so,
yeah.
All right.
So anyway, that's it. Yeah, but I think you're right.
Yeah. So, okay, the Chinese National Space Administration and Roscosmos, well, I guess the Russian form of that,
Okay.
they're signing an agreement to establish a lunar space station.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if that's going to be something that orbits the moon or something that's actually landed on the moon. Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. They don't know yet.
So
they're
haven't decided.
on the surface or orbit the moon, and will be available for use by international partners. I don't know. We'll see.
See, they're trying to get.
Yeah.
They're trying to secure China, especially. They see space as being a long-term future economic interest.
Yeah.
And they're trying to establish their position there.
It's I'm just thinking back to not long ago, one of Dinesh D'Souza's podcasts talked about the fact that China was a pretty big power while we were settling in America. And they could have taken part in that, and they decided they didn't want any part of it. And it was their mistake, because suddenly, over the years, America just grew to this giant, and China shrank in power for a long time. Now China's gaining strength and power, and maybe they're seeing this next frontier, and they're like, okay, we're not going to get left behind again. We're going to control it this time.
Could be. But, there's also a difference between China then and China now, which is that,
right.
I mean, China was always somewhat of a, autocratic society and that kind of, but China now is communist China, which is far more aggressive and imperialist and autocratic than previous Chinas have been.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, but yeah, that's a good point. But, we should be doing the same thing. I mean, we should be partnering with, like, Great Britain or something to do exactly the same kind of thing. I don't know if Great Britain is even interested in space, but they should be. Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're still, I don't know. They've got this thing where we're going to put the first woman on the moon. I don't see how that matters. But right now, we're not even, nobody's been to the moon in such a long time. And Trump had made this goal. I don't know if that's going to be reached or not. I don't even know if it's still being financed with Biden. I mean, when Obama came in, he defunded most of NASA, didn't he?
I don't remember that.
He stopped the space shuttle program, didn't he?
Yeah.
I can't remember what he did. He did something, and they lost a lot with Obama. And now we've got Space Force. Is that still on?
I don't. That's
I don't even know,
because that was kind of introduced by Trump.
Yeah, as the next branch of the military, but we don't even know if that's there anymore. I haven't heard anything about it. Sam went to enlist in the military. I haven't seen anything about enlisting in Space Force. They probably take the cream of the crop from the Air Force and.
Could be. So the United States Space Force, it is a branch of the U.S. Armed Forces. So it is. I think it is still a thing.
Okay.
Now, how much money they get, how much attention they get, that's going to be for a while until space itself has really become a thing. Decades down the line. How much attention they get is going to vary from president to president.
Right. And I don't think, now that we've introduced the idea of allowing markets to control this, I don't know how how much influence it's really going to have.
No, but why? I mean, that's the whole point. I mean, markets work on the seas because of the U.S. Navy, among others, perhaps. So why not take the same thought, long-term thought process with regards to space?
Yeah. Well, That's all the news I got.
All right. I got a few things. So I'm just going to go into the first thing is actually something we already talked about. But it's just the headline is so funny. Okay, the headline is the nonsense here, okay?
Okay.
Biden stimulus showers money on Americans.
Wow.
Sharply cutting poverty.
He's cut poverty?
Sharply cutting poverty.
Wow.
And this is in the Washington
Post. No more poverty
Post.
in America.
This is the Washington Post headline.
So a stimulus package which showers money on people is going to cut poverty.
Sharply. It's like,
Sharply
hey,
cut
some people
poverty.
might get, I don't know, let's say some people get $10,000. That's going to remove them from poverty?
Yeah, then they won't be poor anymore because they'll have $10,000. Jeez, please.
So, yeah. Anyway, I just...
It's so dumb. Where did they come up with it?
It just shows the media's. I don't know. It's like they. It's like now that Trump's gone, they're just free to fawn over Biden and whatever else.
Yeah.
I don't. It's like, did they imagine people aren't laughing at them for stuff like this? Okay.
That's something else.
This is sad. Let's just call it the sad state of public schools in some cities.
Okay.
City student. This is in Baltimore, Maryland. Headline is city student. Whoop! Hello, went away. Passes 3 classes in 4 years.
Wait a minute. Okay, start over again.
A city student passes 3 classes in 4 years. Not passes 3 out of 4 years, but in all 4 years of high school, he only passed 3 classes. He got a non-F in 3 classes.
Why is he still in high school?
Okay,
Or why? I don't understand.
His GPA is 0.13, but here's the story. He ranks right about at the halfway point of his class. He's almost in the top half of his class.
Like in other
students
tests?
At that same school.
Or like, how did they rank him there?
By
Just
GPA.
his grades or with...
Yeah, by GPA.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, what does this school do exactly?
Exactly. That's the question. So this mother, well, I won't bother with the names. Mother thought she would receive his diploma this June, but she just learned that his 17-year-old has to start over. He's basically been moved back to 9th grade. So I guess the school, they send.
Hold on. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, they send letters to parents.
As soon as we wrap up here, I'll go over there and see. He's probably fine. All right, go ahead.
Okay. So I guess these schools...
So the school are...
They send letters to parents and stuff, but the parents, they're not... They don't care to be involved day to day. It's just, take the kid and teach them. But, you have schools that teachers, it's like they're not allowed to fail the kid and say he has to repeat 9th grade now. They have to pass him even though he hasn't, actually done any of the work, and then he gets to senior year, and then it's like,
3
years,
you don't have enough well, you're still
well, now you have to start over
freshman.
at 9th grade.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't get it. It's it's the state of
the whole
of
thing
modern
is so
public schooling.
sad. I dropped out of 9th grade, so I never finished 9th grade. Worked for a year or two, and then I did other things and whatever. Finally, I got to get a GED because I wanted to qualify for something.
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, how do I get a GED? Well, you could take these classes and then go take the test. I said, well, can I just go take the test? Yeah, you could go take the test. So I went and took the test, and I passed the test, and I had my GED, a high school equivalency test.
Right.
So a guy with an 8th grade education passed the high school equivalency test. So what the hell are they teaching in high school that we need to send them there?
Education from St. Martin's.
Yeah.
Catholic
I got all
school.
D's at St. Martin's.
So a guy who got D's at St. Martin's
They
Catholic
didn't even
school
want to pass me. Those teachers just didn't want to deal with me again.
passed the high school, the grade equivalency.
Yeah. I mean, they were like, they didn't want to see me the next year. They're like, oh my gosh, just give him a D. Get him out of here. And so
Don't give him
they
an F,
did,
give him a
and-
D.
Yeah. So I, quote, graduated from 8th grade and then graduated from high school without doing a lick of work. But our whole education system is so messed up.
It's a mess. It's a mess.
But
Okay.
I don't know. I guess that's where we stop, because apparently there's something next door that's calling my attention.
Okay. All right. I'll save the next two for next time.
Oh, you have more? You said you
Yeah.
only had two.
No, I
you
didn't.
found more. Okay, well, go
Oh,
ahead.
I sent you two, and I said more to follow. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So, okay. So next one is a man who has been living for 3 months in the Chicago O'Hare International Airport, has been charged with trespassing and misdemeanor theft. This is kind of like that movie with Tom Hanks about the airport thing. You
Yeah,
remember
he
that
lived at
where
the
like
airport?
he lived at the airport because to leave the airport,
Yeah.
he was going to have to I don't know, do I forget exactly why he couldn't step out of the airport, but he tried to live there. Well, I guess a guy has actually been living in the O'Hare Airport. He's been charged with trespassing. He's posted bail, so I don't know what's going to happen to him after that.
But he's not at the airport anymore.
He's not at the
Probably.
airport anymore. Okay, and my last item, and this is kind of interesting. So this is the day. So here's the thing. To fully appreciate this, you have to first put yourself in the mindset, okay, this is the age where, first of all, inclusiveness is everything. You know, gender, race, everything else. And second of all, gender itself is nothing. You know,
Yeah.
trans, boy, girl, you know, you change your mind from day to day, use the women's restroom this time and the men's restroom that time, and so on and so forth. So, it turns out the Girl Scouts are, I think they're actually suing. I don't know if there's actually a lawsuit. They're talking about a lawsuit. Lawyers are saying that the Girl Scouts are being damaged by the Boy Scouts' willingness to allow girls into the Boy Scouts. And they say they're in a highly damaging recruitment war with the Boy Scouts after they open they call them services, their membership to girls, leading to marketplace confusion and some girls unwittingly joining the Boy Scouts.
Thinking they're joining the Girl Scouts.
Open the Girl Scouts to boys? I don't know. What?
Yeah, why don't they just do that? Let the boys make blankets and stuff and sell
Yeah.
cookies. The girls sell popcorn and the boys sell cookies now.
That's right.
The whole thing is, why would
so
anyone
messed
want
up.
to join either of them at this point?
At this point, no. Well, yeah. Why would they? Why would they?
the
I
whole
don't buy
thing
popcorn or cookies anymore.
To be honest, the
Oh,
Girl
yeah,
Scout
you know
cookies
what?
are not all that great.
In fact, it is. So the lawyers for the Girl Scouts filed papers in Manhattan federal court Thursday to repel an effort to toss out before trial a trademark infringement lawsuit that the girls filed in 2018. So I guess they filed a trademark infringement earlier. I don't know what that's about, but it's like, okay, gender doesn't matter anymore, and yet you're going to sue them because they allow girls in. Girls could be boys if they were transgendered. What? How do you even draw the lines in a lawsuit like this?
I remember when everybody made a big deal about the Boy Scouts letting girls in, and I thought that was the dumbest thing in the world.
That was like
People
3
should
years
have
ago,
made a
right?
big deal, like 10 years ago, I think.
No,
that
because
was 3 years
It was about
ago.
3 years ago. It was long
But it
before
was
that
about-
that they allowed like openly gay leaders in the packs and the
Yeah, it was like
troops and
10 years
stuff.
before that. They
Right. That was a big deal.
That should have been the one that got fought. Instead, they waited until they let girls in. It's like, who cares if they let girls in? Girls don't cause little boys to become gay. Girls don't molest little boys.
Exactly.
Gay men do that.
Let the girls in and keep the gays out.
Yeah, I would have been more for that than... Because what does it matter if a little girl's kind of a tomboy wants to, okay, let her, whatever, to go camping.
And most girls go through a tomboy stage, they grow out of it.
Yeah, but no, instead they let gays come in who molested a bunch of little boys, and now there's all kinds of lawsuits concerning that.
Yep.
And they're worried about them letting girls in. Who the heck cares?
Maybe the Girl Scouts, they what they ought to make a case, although I don't know what goes on in Girl Scouts, but they ought to say, hey, we don't want the Boy Scouts letting girls in because we know that the Boy Scouts have their molesters. We don't want them molesting our young girls. We want to keep them in the Girl Scouts. That would be the argument to make.
That would be a better argument. Yeah, because these girls are prepubescent, and so gay men are not going to go after the post-pubescent girl. They're going to go after the prepubescent ones.
Right.
Because they look less like a woman, and so that's why they go after prepubescent boys.
Young boys, yeah.
But I don't know. The whole scouting issue is... I stopped caring about that so long ago.
Yeah, no.
My kids aren't going to any of them. Of course, my kids don't want to anymore, but...
Well, no. Yeah, that's...
Oh, well.
That's all I've got.
All right. That's all you got. Okay. Well, folks, think about what we said, and as always...
Circle the beads.
Keep praying, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, everyone.